Hello everyone. In this lesson, we are going to discuss the limit of an indeterminate form 0 over 0. So here, we will try to evaluate the limit of a certain function that leads to an expression 0 over 0. But before that, let us first define the indeterminate form 0 over 0. If the limit of f of x as x approaches c is equal to 0 and the limit of g of x as x approaches c is also equal to 0, then the limit of f of x over g of x as x approaches c is called an indeterminate form of type 0 over 0. Because if we will try to evaluate this one using the division theorem or the quotient theorem, this will become limit of f of x as x approaches c over the limit of g of x as x approaches c, right? And from our assumption, the limit of f of x as x approaches c is equal to 0, and the limit of g of x as x approaches c is also equal to 0. So we have now an indeterminate form of type 0 over 0. So it is specific to this type 0 over 0 because there are many types of indeterminate form. But here we will focus on 0 over 0. Now, what will happen if the limit will lead to 0 over 0? So sabi dito, a limit that is indeterminate of type 0 over 0 may exist. So the limit may exist, and to find the actual value of the limit, one should find an expression equivalent to the original. So in this case, we will manipulate the given expression in such a way that we can find another expression equivalent to the original. Dapat hindi ma-change yung form ng ating expression. So, ang hahanapin natin ay yung expression equivalent lang sa original. And it is commonly done by factoring or by rationalizing. Okay? Para ma-illustrate natin yan, let's consider the following examples. Evaluate the limit of x squared plus x minus 6 all over x minus 2 as x approaches 2. Now, take note, we can just do direct substitution here. Now, if we are going to do direct substitution, and if meron siyang value na lalabas, then the limit exists. And yung value na yun ang limit. Example, if yung answer ay 2, 1/2, or any real number. If that's the case, automatic that will be your answer. But if your answer here is 0 over 0 after you substitute the value of c to your function, do not conclude that the limit does not exist. Let us try to check muna if we can do factoring or rationalizing kasi the limit may exist, sabi kanina. Okay? So let us check if this one will lead to 0 over 0. And by the way, if yung answer naman is a number over 0. Yung number ay hindi 0. Okay, suppose we have 1 over 0, 2 over 0, 3 over 0, and the likes. If that's the case, the limit does not exist. So you can conclude. Okay? We cannot conclude if it is 0 over 0. So in this case, let's try to substitute. So we will have 2 square plus 2 minus 6 all over 2 minus 2. And this is now equal to 0 over 0. So this is our first step. Let us check first if yung limit will lead to 0 over 0 before you proceed to factoring or rationalizing. Okay? Now, let's proceed to factoring since we have 0 over 0. So we have x squared plus x minus 6 all over x minus 2 as x approaches 2. Now, x squared plus x minus 6 is factorable. And the factors are, we have x plus 3 and x minus 2. Then over, copy the denominator x minus 2 as x approaches 2. So in this case, we can see that there's a common factor. So we can cancel that out. So let's cancel x minus 2. So cancel this, and what will happen? We will have the limit of x plus 3 na lang, right? As x approaches 2. And since this one is a polynomial function, we can just do direct substitution. So we will have 2 plus 3, and that is equal to 5. So the limit of this function exists, and that is equal to 5. And by the way, this is a tip for you. Whenever we are going to do factoring, okay, dapat may makikita tayong common factor. If there's no common factor, there's something wrong with your solution. So, dapat meron kayong makitang common factor. Okay, let's have another example. Ito. So, let's try first if this will lead to 0 over 0. So, we will have negative 1 square minus 1 all over negative 1 square plus 4 times negative 1 plus 3. And this is 1 minus 1, 0 over 1 minus 4. So negative 3 plus 3, you have 0. Again, we have an indeterminate form. So we will do factoring or rationalizing. In this case, factoring lang yung pwede natin gawin. So we have x squared plus 4x plus 3 as x approaches negative 1. So let's factor this one. The factors of x squared minus 1 are x plus 1 and x minus 1 all over. The factors of x squared plus 4x plus 3 are x plus 1 and x plus 3 as x approaches negative 1. So here, our common factor is x plus 1. So we will cancel that out. So what's left now, we will have the limit of x minus 1 over x plus 3 as x approaches negative 1. And this will now be equal to, using direct substitution, we have negative 1 minus 1 over negative 1 plus 3. And we have negative 2 over 2 equal to negative 1. So this will be your final answer. Okay, so that's it. Now let's try another one. In this case, so doing direct substitution, we will have 4 squared minus 16 all over square root of 4 minus 2. And that is equal to 16 minus 16, 0 over 2 minus 2, you have 0. So let's try factoring or rationalizing. In this case, we can rationalize since we have a radical expression. Rationalizing is just a method of removing or eliminating the radical expression. In this case, let's remove the radical expression sa denominator. So we have, copy muna natin, x squared minus 16 over square root of x minus 2 as x approaches 4. Now, how are we going to remove the radical sign? So in this case, ganito lang ang gagawin natin. You look for the rational conjugate of the given expression. So sa denominator tayo magra-rationalize. So the rational conjugate, ang gagawin nyo lang ay i-change lang yung operation. So if we have minus, gagawin nyo lang siyang plus. If you have plus, gagawin nyo siyang minus. So in this case, this will become square root of x plus 2. Whatever you multiplied to the denominator, you should multiply it to the numerator so that we are just multiplying an expression equivalent to 1. So any number multiplied to 1 is just the number itself, right? So in this case, since we are just multiplying an expression equivalent to 1, so the original expression will not change, right? So from that, we will now have the limit of, so you multiply the numerator and the denominator. So sa numerator, we will just combine the two. So copy nyo lang square root of x plus 2 over, take note that a plus b times a minus b is equal to a squared minus b squared, right? So ang kaibahan lang dito ay yung operation, which is just the same with this one, right? So in that case, our answer will be the square of the first term minus the square of the second term. Our first term is square root of x, so we have square root of x square. Then always minus, okay? Then square of the second term, which is 2, so we have 2 square as x approaches 4. So from that, we will now have the limit of x squared minus 16 times square root of x plus 2 all over square root of x squared is x minus 2 squared is 4 as x approaches 4. Next, x squared minus 16 can be factored, right? And the factors are the limit of x plus 4 and x minus 4. In this case, may makakancel tayo. So that is our goal. Dapat may mawalang expression dito. And we have square root of x plus 2 all over x minus 4 as x approaches 4. So x minus 4 is common, so that will be canceled out there. So what's left now is the limit of x plus 4 times square root of x plus 2. So wala nang denominator as x approaches 4. So from that, doing direct substitution, we will have 4 plus 4 times square root of 4 plus 2. So we will have 8 times 2 plus 2, you have 4. And this is equal to 32. So that will be our final answer. Okay, now for the last one, let's try this. So, substituting, we will have 9 squared minus 81 over 3 minus square root of 9. So, this is 81 minus 81, 0 over 3 minus 3, 0. Indeterminate again. So, we will do factoring and rationalizing. So, we will have x squared minus 81 over 3 minus square root of x as x approaches 9. So here we will multiply the rational conjugate. So we will have 3 plus square root of x. You just change the sign or the operation. Okay? And whatever you multiplied sa denominator, multiply it to the numerator also. Okay? So we are rationalizing the denominator. By the way, you can also rationalize the numerator if yung radical sign nasa numerator. Okay? So we will have the limit of x squared minus 81 times 3 plus square root of x all over 3 square. Take the square of the first term minus the square of the second term as x approaches 9. So we will have, so the factors of x squared minus 81 are x plus 9 and x minus 9. So if a factor ko na siya agad, and we have 3 plus square root of x all over 3 square is 9 minus square root of x square is x as x approaches 9. Now, in this case, wala pa tayong common factor na nakikita because x minus 9 is not the same as 9 minus x. So, let's change 9 minus x in terms of x minus 9. Take note, 9 minus x, pwede natin siyang gawing negative of, I will factor out negative 1. So, magiging from positive 9, magiging negative 9 yan. And negative x, magiging positive x, right? And this is now equal to negative of, rearranging, we have x minus 9. If you will try to distribute again the negative, babalik yan sa original. So, 9 minus x can be written as negative of x minus 9. So, this will now be equal to the limit of x plus 9, x minus 9, 3 plus square root of x, and over negative of x minus 9 as x approaches 9. So we will have we already have a common factor here, so we can cancel that out. So what's left is the limit of, since we have negative 1 sa baba, pwede natin yung ilagay sa taas. So that will be negative of x plus 9 times 3 plus square root of x, right? As x approaches 9. Then doing direct substitution, we have negative of 9 plus 9 times 3 plus square root of 9. And that is negative of 18 times 3 plus 3, 6. 18 times 6 is equal to negative of 108. So there. So our final answer is negative 108. So that ends our lesson for the limits of the expression 0 over 0. Again, you just do factoring or rationalizing. Thank you for watching.